Growing Better Connections has been privileged to work with inspirational projects. We're enthusiastic to share what's been achieved so far and where we're headed. Our mission is to provide opportunities for the people and landscape of North East Pembrokeshire to thrive through practical action, training, events, skill sharing, citizen science and more. This film showcases some of our work and asks questions of some of the inspiring projects we've worked with. We also asked attendees for their thoughts about managing woodlands for the community, including what seemed most critical for this to happen or to work well.
Hopefully, just even getting into woodlands, somewhere that people don't necessarily go to any longer, and particularly woodlands that are managed, which have a lot more light and a lot more species of birds, for instance, as a result of that light, might encourage people to be interested in the nature in their local area.
Our job today, and one of our jobs every day as humans on this planet, is to help people to find connectivity towards rural enterprise, rural business and the planet. And by the people coming today and having a beautiful morning in the woods, not only have they gone away with a sense of connectivity to a piece of woodland within their area, I'm hoping they've gone away having had a really beautiful experience.
And we are learning about nature all the time, and how make it very concrete, and sort of like it's how wind moves through trees, which would inform all sorts of things about how a woodland ecosystem works. It could be something that's quite damaged even, you might see, and you wouldn't, I really strongly believe you don't need a book at many stages, and people that are really deeply scientific ecologists, that's what they'll explain too, is that their findings or their deep knowing is actually a huge amount of it is to do with sensory as much as knowing something theoretical. And 20 odd years ago I did go on a wilderness awareness course, and they mentioned that you sometimes intuitively start to know what something is. So careful observation actually does teach you something, and then there'll be a lifetime's learning in that, isn't there, about the interactions, because so much of it's unseen.
They're working at a small scale, whereas a kind of commercial tree nursery is able to create an enormous amount of trees at very low cost, and they're all the common types which are very simple to propagate, and that's a really interesting, it's something that I've obviously thought about before, but it's interesting to see that it is exactly what you need to do, is concentrate on something very specific that you can be good at, rather than try and compete with the big guys. It was interesting to know that the team here hadn't encountered a local woodworking school, coppicing school called Copperswood College, which means that the local projects are not well linked up, and that would be really beneficial for people for there to be a more active network, so that people know what skills are available locally, instead of searching the UK for something like hurdles, which they were mentioning. They might be able to source those people to make those things from local products much more easily than they imagine if the network was there.
Even the purpose of today, which is looking at oak trees in particular, what's better as a heritage symbol of Britain than an oak tree? And the history of Britain has been intertwined with oaks for thousands of years.
We did talk about the historical use of the woodlands in this area. I talked particularly about oak coppicing with reference to this area. Most of the woodlands in the Teivi Valley were managed for the production of charcoal and tan bark and pit props, and oak was specifically coppiced for that for a period of about probably 200 years or so. There was a lot of people working in that trade. That bark would be used to make leather, Cattle locally, Welsh Blacks, were kept in this area a lot in the past, and of course they contributed a large amount to that leather trade, which was a big industry in Wales during those years.
Cornerwood itself is a very integral part of a history of woodland and woodland management that has happened within the area that we are in West Wales for the last nigh on 300 years, and previous to that too, but from 300 years ago onward there's been a very much a people working within woodland for the boat building industry, for example, for Cardigan, and for all the other needs that people would have had in the local area for their kitchenware and their firewood and things like that. Our job here is to carry on that tradition in a slightly more modern way, in a way of encouraging people back into woodlands, back into the landscape, back into a sense of self, back into understanding where product comes from.
They've got a better connection with, particularly with hazel stalls now. When you see the multi-stemmed hazel stalls, this area is full of them, because this area in the lower regions of the Teifi was largely a coppice area, particularly for hazel from wood fuel and for products for houses. So that instead of just walking past them, you can see that that's a huge hazel coppice stall that's been supplying people for 200 or 300 years, and make that connection so that we can keep using them so they don't die out, because that's the issue at the moment, is that the hazel, if it's not cut and got back into cycle, these overstood stalls will disappear, and they have been providing us humans with a resource.
What really caught my attention through this activity today with Nick here at Coppicewood College was the engagement and the passion and the knowledge that is about this way of regenerating land and using techniques that has been used for many years. I really wanna get more involved with things like this, and I think there's so much to learn, and it's great to see that there is a place that contains that knowledge and passion.
I think one of the key things was when we went to view the kind of hedge, which has got a lot of edible varieties in it. So if you're going to plant a hedge, maybe you don't really think about planting lots of edible things, as well as the other functions available from those plants. But yeah, that kind of spiked a little bit of interest in me.
There's a lot of old techniques that we need to really relearn and re-employ, because over hundreds of years, wood has been a major material for heat and fire, but also today it's more appropriate that we use it as timber. And instead of buying in foreign timbers and causing problems in other parts of the world, we've got the know-how, the species and the land to do it ourselves. It's important we grow our own stock where we can, our own tree stock from local provenance trees, so selecting some really good mother trees that we know have been in the environment for a long time, that are healthy, growing those trees ourselves and planting them in our environment, so that's minimising risk from any other pests and diseases from outside, but also then encouraging and teaching people how to learn green woodworking skills, timber skills to create locally produced sustainable timber products. And I think there's a huge scope for that, but it needs to start right at the beginning with local tree nurseries, growing local provenance trees, planted in local areas, and then all have the skill set to actually know what to do with those trees. One of the areas I think that there's definite economic value in, and there's a lot of people in this part of the world that would love to do more in this way, is coppicing. So there's a value in coppicing, and it's a regenerative approach for the trees as well. And you extend the life of your tree actually by chopping it down every few years and letting it regrow remarkably. Also, it's really good for wildlife because it changes the habitat mix. And if you do it on a rotational basis, you can have different cover, and the more the communities can be brought together and skills shared, as we've done today, the quicker we can get on this, because it's obvious now that we've all got to change the way we live. And this is one way in Wales where we've got quite a lot of land, quite a lot of rain, but also a market for these materials.
The first stage is to cut the coppice and to provide suitable material for use, and then the next stage is to turn that those poles, that wood if you like, into economic account. And certainly there are markets for things like charcoal. There are local markets for various craft works. Some people even go so far as to make furniture, etc., various furniture and household items from coppice wood. So there's plenty of opportunities. Theoretically, you know, they have to be developed, but there are plenty of theoretical opportunities for people to generate at least some of their income as a result of originally having managed a wood. If we provide more materials that are suitable, then there's a potential for more and more people to earn money in that way.
For the people that aren't necessarily going to own a place and make products, I think it still contributes to economic resilience, because an appreciation of natural resources, then my wish would be then that that when we are buying something or we are supporting a local business, that awareness of natural resources as their value, their deep value, both sort of psychological, spiritual, economic and everything else, would actually start to influence how we interact with markets. And I think that is part of it. Quite a few of the people, what they said was this sense of well-being that they just had from having been with other humans in a beautiful setting. And well, so when we are closed off and fearful, then our social resilience takes a nosedive, in my opinion. Whereas when we've got this expansive sense, and a lot of people spoke about a calmness came over them, or well, my words now, a sense of sort of inner peace, then, and it's well mapped, that idea that green places give you well-being benefits, then that really feeds into the social resilience too, because now every time we tune into that part of ourselves, we've got that body memory now.
It's knowledge, it's training, it's understanding, it's skill. That's not the fact that they've got a tangible thing and they've parted with money for that. That's only one part of it. They've invested in something as well, and that the economic resilience of the area, if everybody did that, then Ceredigion, Pembrokeshire and the areas and the counties around would have a lot more economic resilience to themselves. There was a lot of people sharing a lot of quite heartfelt things towards the end of the session here. A lot of people said things like they were feeling connected, that they'd felt rebirthed, that they felt held. That's kind of telling me that they're feeling resilient within themselves a bit more, having come and spent a morning here, that they can go potentially out into the wider community feeling a lot more grounded, a lot more happy about their being. And maybe Corner Wood has helped them a little bit today to have a little bit of a seed of self-worth as well.
We're working on a toolkit, we call it our toolkit of resilience, and through exercises like the one that Jasmine Dale led today, similar ones to that, you can give a person the means with which they can feel more grounded, overcome upset and emotion, hold themselves a bit better. And through that, joining in at workshops here, like Tracy said, they will then go home and probably pass those tools on to other people in their community. As this spreads out into our communal web, we are going to build this strong community, I believe. And I think it's a really important part of our job, as important as the coppicing and the biodiversity. Running alongside, parallel to it, is this building of this healing that is happening in the community as we come back to ourselves through nature.
I guess there's a couple of critical things. One is money to have access to land or community asset transfer, whatever, however, sourcing land. But actually, even if you have that, you need the people with skills to work on it and get paid for doing so, essentially. But access to land is the other big one. Money.
I think that's the main driver, isn't it, in today's society? But if you can make the economic, social and kind of environmental come together, so if you can provide jobs, and that will keep the momentum of such a project going forward, where people can get a salary in which they can have a good standard of living, then I think you've got a state of, it can be perpetual, you know, if you set it up correctly.
Tapping into the rhizomes of wisdom, you wove them all into a tale. And with seeds in your pockets and dirt on your hands, you took us into the belly of the whale. Took us into the belly of the whale. So go on and tell us another, 'cause your stories are food for the soul, helping us to see the forest for the trees and ourselves as a part of the whole. See ourselves as a part of the whole. Yeah, trees eat us all in the end, so plant one for me when I'm gone. Then if you hear that I've died, you can tell them they've lied. I'm just shading out somebody's lawn.
If you'd like more information about the Growing Better Connections project, please contact us on gbc@comarian.org.uk.